The Nikon ZF was hands down my favorite camera of 2024. It has a beautiful design, amazing in-camera colors, really good autofocus, and it wasn't because it was a bad camera or anything. I actually sort of regret selling it, but right now it didn't quite fit my workflow. First of all, if you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of the Nikon ZF. There's a lot of things that the Nikon ZF does that a lot of my cameras can't do. First of all, adapting lenses on this camera is amazing. All of the manual focus features that you get with this camera, focus peaking and checking focus by pressing one of the buttons. Adapting lenses from Leica and even other Nikon lenses was really nice. I love pairing my father-in-law's vintage collection of lenses onto it. And I even bought a Typoc M-mount lens just specifically to mount on the Nikon ZF. And honestly, even like the autofocus system is one of the best autofocus systems around. It's fast, it's confident, and it really told me a lot about why Nikon has such a big fan base. Like, this camera didn't hesitate when I shot it for weddings or when I was following my kid around. And one of my favorite things about the Nikon ZF was the out of camera JPEGs. Even without doing anything to the image, I really enjoyed the JPEG experience right out of the camera. And every time I shot photos for like family events, I just was super comfortable just sharing the raw JPEG because I really like the colors coming out of the camera. I didn't try a whole bunch of Nikon lenses, but the 35mm Z mount lens was an amazing lens. It's sharp, but it still has some character. And honestly, every lens that I tried for the Z mount was fantastic. So what did I end up selling it? So if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I'm a working photographer and videographer. So every camera that I have has to have multiple purposes, like for photo and for video. And I found myself picking up the Nikon ZF less and less, and there was a few reasons why. And with my initial review that I did of the camera, I did mention the size of the camera and that it didn't bother me, but after a while, the size of it does feel a little bit intense, especially now that my kid is getting older. I have a 3-year-old, and when he was younger, it wasn't a problem to carry him and a camera and a couple of lenses, but the older he gets, the more I felt the weight of the Nikon ZF. So when I'm out with my family, I tend to lean more on lighter kits. And honestly, even like with the 28mm lens that I had, the f2.8, which was a light plasticky lens, great. It was just not, it just didn't have that extra thing I like in lenses. It was just an okay lens. And for me, if I wanted to really shoot that camera and really enjoy the process, I had to adapt the Typoc 28mm M-mount lens that I had. And that's also a really heavy lens. So adding the bulk of the camera plus of a manual focusing lens, it was really like slowing me down that I actually was enjoying the process of making the photos. And again, as a dad of a little kid, I really don't have much free time to go out and shoot. So a lot of my decision was based on just weight alone. Instead of carrying the Nikon ZF plus an M-mount manual focus lens, I opted out to just, you know, getting the Ricoh GR3 again, the same 28mm focal length. It's APS-C, not full frame, but it feels more at the speed that I want it to be right now, just based on where I am in life and with my family. And the third reason why I sold the Nikon ZF was I'm primarily a Sony shooter, and as much as I like mismatching colors for video, matching S-Log3 and N-Log was taking way too much time. I mean, I could do it, I did it a bunch of times, but it was extra time that I did not want to fiddle with trying to match both of those color sciences. And like Sony, they shift towards the green. I found that the Nikon colors, they shift more magenta-y. So like, it's not like huge shifts, but enough to where for my professional career, it didn't make sense going back between Sony and Nikon. So it ended up being an extra layer of post-processing that I didn't really feel like I needed. Like my main camera that I shoot all my YouTube videos right now, it's the FX30 paired with my Sony a7 IV. So for my YouTube stuff, like Sony things, like I've been a Sony shooter since I started being a professional photographer and videographer. So I'm super familiar with the way Sony colors look, so it's really easy for me to like color grade and to do my edits for raw images for my clients. So it really didn't make much sense to keep trying to make both of those things work together. But at the end of the day, the biggest reason why I sold the camera is just I wasn't using it enough. And the last thing I want to do as a photographer is to collect cameras, because I think all the cameras that I own should have a purpose and I should be using them as much as I can, because at that point I end up just being a collector of cameras rather than a photographer. I was reaching for other setups way more often, even though the Nikon ZF was my favorite to hold and to shoot with. And selling it isn't a reflection of the quality of the camera, it's more of a reflection of my shooting habits. So would I buy the Nikon ZF again? Absolutely. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point I rebought the camera. I mean, I recently just went back to the Ricoh GR3 after being away from it for a year, so who knows? The Nikon ZF might show up again in my kit. But at this moment in time, I hope that my Nikon ZF gets a better use from another photographer.
For all of time, I'll be with you by your side. Highest heights through the longest winter nights. Time may be cruel, but my heart won't get over you. So as we grow old, I hope you know.
So if you shoot Nikon or are interested in a camera with that like modern but also vintage flair, you can't go wrong with the Nikon ZF. So if you're a Nikon ZF user, I would love to hear your thoughts about owning this camera, or if you own the Nikon ZF, why you ended up selling it. Because honestly, the Nikon ZF is such a good camera. I am not at all surprised that it has such a big following. So thank you so much for watching this week's video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Am I